Where the hell is Joe?
He's over there sitting with Jack.
I swear I'm going to do something with him. You ready?
Yep.
All right, here we go. Meeting come to order, please. Thank you. Roll call, if you would, press your present button. Robin, Pete. Hey, record it. Thank you. Announcements, staff?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. There's only one announcement tonight, and that is agenda item number 11. That having to do with amendment to the Williamson County zoning ordinance regarding development entry points was withdrawn. And beyond that, we have no other announcements.
Thank you. Consideration of the minutes of January 14th, 2016. Any corrections, changes? Was there a second in there somewhere? Thank you. Any other? Prepare to vote. Vote now. Record it.
You're still voting.
Oops. I confirmed. Well, I'll do it again. Thank you. Motion carries. Any old business, staff?
Yes, sir, but if with your permission, we'd like to go on and do the consent agenda. I think we have the old business listed after the consent agenda.
That'll be fine. Consent agenda. Any of those in the members of the commission who wish to hear any item on the consent is a separate item, please say so now, otherwise we'll take it as a whole. Anyone? Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Begin with item 3, Chardonnay, Section 6, performance bond for landscaping, $12,850. Recommendation defer for a period of 3 months and require completion. Item 4, Chardonnay, Section 6, performance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control, $550,000. Recommendation convert to maintenance in the amount of $275,000 and extend for a period of 1 year. Item 5, Dunblane subdivision, performance bond for sewer, $70,000. Recommendation extend in current amount for a period of 6 months. Item 6, Kings Chapel, Section 3A, maintenance bond for wastewater collection system, $19,500. Recommendation, release the bond. Item 7, Kings Chapel, Section 3A, maintenance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control, $126,000. Recommendation, extend in current amount for a period of 1 year. Item 8, Kings Chapel, Section 4B, performance bond for wastewater collection system, $67,500. Recommendation, defer to the March 2016 meeting. And item 8, The Grove, Section 6, maintenance bond for water, $46,500. Recommendation, release the bond.
Thank you, sir. Any questions on consent? Motion? Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Prepare to vote. Vote now. Record it. Yeah. Motion carries. Thank you. Old business?
That would be item 10. That'd be Fox's agreement.
Presentation of the agenda items. Item 10, concept plan review for Foxen Canyon revised, containing 49 lots on 91.02 acres located off of Heartland Road in the 8th voting district. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A revised concept plan for this development was considered by this body at the January 2016 meeting, and you have in your packet the staff report from that meeting. Following discussion regarding issues related to access, this body voted to defer the item until the February meeting in order to determine whether the applicant has the legal right to utilize a shared ingress-egress easement as a construction entrance as proposed by the applicant. The applicant has since provided the county attorney with documentation regarding the terms of this easement. In a memorandum dated February 5, 2016, the county attorney advised that the documents provided by the applicant's counsel indicate that the applicant does have the authority to utilize the easement for a construction entrance. Staff recommends approval of the revised concept plan with the same stipulations that were outlined in the staff report for the January 2016 meeting. And one more thing, Mr. Chairman, that is that you have in front of you a stack of correspondence that we have received regarding this item. I think much of this was sent to you all directly, but we wanted to put this information in front of you this evening.
Thank you. Questions of staff or comments? Jack?
Yes, I'd like to move for approval per staff recommendations with additional stipulations. And that would be prior to preliminary plat, require second access connecting to a public road outside of Hart's Landmark in Farmington. And also, a construction entrance should also be connected to a public road outside of Hart's Landmark in Farmington subdivisions.
Motion, do you have a second? Second. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Yes, ma'am? You bet.
My name is Barbara Sturgeon, and first I want to say thank you for allowing me to speak. And thank you for your time and service on the Planning Commission. If we don't already realize, we should. I know what kind of time it takes and service it takes to do public service, and it's a sacrifice for your community, and I appreciate that. So thank you. As a county commissioner, I'm here to represent the interests of the residents in my district, District 8. My concern is for the existing residents of Farmington and Hart's Landmark, but not only them, but for the future residents of the developed McKay's property. Right now, that would be the future residents of Fox and Canyon. The concept plan that is under review tonight, and I would like to point out that I have found that the people in Farmington and Hart's Landmark are very welcoming and positive to future growth that we all are expecting, and the people that are going to come with that. They understand the McKays have a right to develop their land, and the builder needs to make a profit. And what we want is with this new development is that it's done correctly and done with respect for the existing neighbors and with safety as a top priority. Because Heartland Road was allowed to become the construction entrance for the Hart's Landmark subdivision, residents have been dealing with a lot. And they've been quite patient and tolerant. Pedestrians have been run off the road while walking their dog by construction trucks barreling down Heartland while exceeding the speed limit. Homeowners in their vehicles have suffered road damage with potholes created by construction traffic. And during the most moderate rains, I've been shown pictures of rivers of mud flowing down Heartland, bypassing the retention pond, and emptying directly into the local creek flowing to the Harpeth. The point is that allowing Fox and Canyon to turn the Andersons and Andrews private driveway into a construction entrance and not implementing a second entrance from outside of Heartland or Farmington roads will only extend the problems and exacerbate them. And it also shows little consideration for the families of Anderson and Andrews. The construction of Hart's Landmark will eventually be completed, but will we be happy with the result? And this is what I'm hearing from people. We want our kids to be safe playing outside, and we want to know that in the event of an emergency or a natural disaster, emergency vehicles will be assured access and residents will have egress if needed. This is a reasonable expectation, I believe, and Williamson County zoning ordinance, which was amended in 2013, clearly states it as among its goals for the county. And specifically it says, to promote greater safety of passage between roadways and adjacent properties, and to minimize the detrimental effects of vehicular use on adjacent properties. It's clear that that proceeding with Fox and Canyon in its present configuration does not meet these goals for our county. The existing residents of Farmington and Hart's Landmark, and eventually Fox and Canyon, have a vested interest in safe access as provided by the county's existing zoning ordinance. With respect to the required entry points for the subdivisions, the zoning ordinance delineates the requirements in Article 17. and I'm sure you've heard it, but I'll say it for the record. A single ingress-egress point may be provided for subdivisions containing less than 100 dwelling units. And B, at least 2 ingress-egress points shall be provided for a subdivision containing 100 or more dwelling units. Okay, I'm not a lawyer, but I can't see the basis for not counting the existing homes in Farmington when calculating the requirements for entry points, particularly when this is a safety issue. When it comes to safety, we need to be proactive, not reactive in our planning, and I understand you cannot plan for every possible thing. But these requirements that I've just read, we have seen fit as a county to codify and adopt, and I think we should follow them. This is what I understand is the number of homes. There's 89 existing homes in Farmington, and when you add 46 lots, which will be what we have for Hart's Landmark when it's done, we get a total of 135. And adding Fox and Canyon makes the total 184, with 1 entry and exit point. Until a second means of ingress or egress is added outside of Heartland and Farmington roads, the appropriate access and safety is not provided to the citizens of this area, in my opinion. Therefore, this second entrance should be a requirement before development may proceed. At last month's meeting, Mr. Wells of Turnberry stated that Turnberry had identified 3 properties that would allow a second entrance. He then stated that they were unsuccessful at being able to purchase those off-site properties to the best of their attempts. Since then, I have talked to 3 relevant landowners that are willing to provide land to Turnberry to make this second entrance happen, including the new owners of Andrew's property. So I respectfully ask this commission to consider all of these points as you determine how to proceed. Thank you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. I have a motion second on the floor. Is there any further discussion on the commission? I had a second. Holly?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not going to disagree with Commissioner Sturgeon's interpretation of the 100 home limit. But with Jack, your resolution is for a second entrance, right?
Yes.
Okay, a requirement for a second, it's not saying where, but just a requirement for a second entrance.
Correct. It can't be through Hart's Landmark and Farmington
Okay.
subdivisions. And likewise, the construction entrance would also have to be elsewhere.
Okay.
Other discussion? Brian?
That was my question as well. I just want to make sure I was clear on the motion on the floor. So.
Okay. Any other questions on the motion? Pete?
Yes, I've got something I'd like to say. It's been 45 years since I've been on this property. I was a feed salesman at one time, called on Mr. McKay to try to sell feed, but didn't have any luck changing his mind. But I left thinking this was one of the most peaceful, quiet places I've ever been to. I got about 30 emails in the last week, a couple of FedEx packages and UPS packages saying how construction traffic would tear up the quiet neighborhood and how too much traffic on the road. So Sunday I drove out there, look around. I don't see how Mr. McKay's put up with the junk he's had to put up with for the last 20 years as far as construction traffic. He's had to look at 3 subdivisions come in front of him. As far as traffic on the roads, I drove through Hart's Landmark subdivision. Every house there has the 3-car garage. Nobody there is interested in cutting down traffic on the roads. Mr. McKay's mill has to be developed because you've boxed him in with nothing else to do. If this will work out with everybody, I think it'd be a good thing to do.
Anybody else? Prepare to vote. Vote now.
Christie.
I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. I need to deal with this motion. You'll be glad to speak after we finish this. It's already on the floor, and you can have the floor after that, okay? Prepare to vote. Vote now. Record a vote. Motion carries. Mr. White, you have the floor.
Chairman Lackey, members of the commission, I asked the commission to consider our comments about the matter that apparently was just voted upon and to be reconsidered. As I understand the motion as was articulated and seconded and passed, it basically makes the concept plan non-doable for this development. And basically, we have asked the commission to hear our request here tonight, and my comments are as follows. My name is Tom White. I'm an attorney. I represent the Turnberry Development Group. I'm here with the McKay family, who have owned this property since 1874. They're hardly flippers. They're not waiting for the best deal. They've had this property for a long time, as was mentioned here earlier. But basically, with respect to questions and items, I think it's pretty clear that requiring a second entranceway that would not come into the two areas that were mentioned makes the development not possible. I asked this commission to consider, when this matter was heard by this commission back on September 10 of 2015. When that was heard, this commission approved this matter on a 7-to-1 vote. Now, at the time, it became clear that there were other issues that would require a redrawing of the development. As a result of that, my client, through their engineers, basically set a standard with the city where they met with them and discussed it with them, and they turned up a better concept plan. There's nobody that disagrees. The concept plan that's proposed right now is a better plan than this commission approved 7-to-1 in September. It basically changed the interior roads, and in addition, it also took care of moving 5 lots further away from Hart Landmark development. With those changes, the matter was suggested to come back here. When this matter came before this commission in January, there were 2 additional items that were raised. One had to do with a proposal where there'd be a construction ingress and egress through a particular route that was identified, and the other had to do with permanent access coming through Hart's Landmark. My client at great length addressed those matters. I sent a letter to Christy Ransom, which she has reviewed. And without going through blow by blow what I did, we spelled out every right to the ingress egress coming through the McKay's property. In addition, we spelled out a written commitment with the owners of Hart's Landmark. On both of those issues, which were the 2 issues with this commission asked to be heard about at the January meeting, I sent those to Christy with all the background confirming it. She reviewed it, spent a great deal of time on it, and confirmed that we had satisfied both of those conditions. It wasn't an easy task. We checked all the books, all the pages, sent everything to her. So my comment to the group tonight is we were asking for the concept plan to be approved, which is a far better plan by everybody's recognition than what was approved 7-to-1 in September. With respect to the neighbors, we're aware that the ingress-egress easement came by 2 of the neighbors, Mr. Anderson and Mr. Andrews. We wrote a letter to them and said, despite the fact that we may have the legal right to do it, we agreed to do a number of things. Put a flagman on the property, do a number of other things, make sure that we kept the road up, make sure we did any damage control that needed to be done. That's not something the client needed to do, but they stepped out to do the right thing. And so I say to the commission tonight, the motion that was made and carried, as I understood, before we got a chance to say anything, basically requires 2 entranceways, not in the 2 areas that it's connected to. I think your city engineer, I think other people will tell you that's basically impossible to do. It's impossible financially, plus we'd have to deal with at least 2 or 3 property owners. It's one thing for a property owner to say, I'll work with you, as was commented by somebody here, but you've got to buy the property. The slopes are particularly difficult. My clients tried to do that and demonstrated that. So my comment tonight is I'm asking the commission to reconsider and allow the approval of a plan that everybody agrees is far better than what this group approved 7-to-1 in September. And I'll close by saying my client did everything right. They looked at your rules, they looked at the regulations. I heard a comment tonight about this 100-lot subdivision interpretation. Nobody legally is going to say you apply that retroactively, which is what somebody's urging you to do. It doesn't work that way. You come in, you look at the rules, you look at the regulations, you rely on them, and you move forward. That's exactly what my client did. So I'm asking you, Mr. Chairman, frankly, I have clarified, I thought we had a chance to address the commission before you'd vote on this matter. We were here asking to be recognized, which I think was clear. So I'm stating my position to you, which is I urge the commission to reconsider this matter and vote on it and approve this proposal.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion on this matter? Anyone? Any motions?
Move for approval as amended, or whatever the term is,
On,
on the amendment that we passed a while ago, or the stipulations, I guess is.
Your original motion was to approve it with staff recommendation and some additional stipulations.
Correct.
So when you all approved that, you took action on the item. So the only thing that would be considered now is if someone moved to reconsider the item
Oh.
and put it back on the table.
anyone for reconsider? I see none, we'll move on. Thank you. Agenda item 11 has been withdrawn. Agenda item 12. Concept plan review for Stevens Valley containing 871 lots on 726.45 acres located off Sneed Road in the 9th voting district. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is requesting concept plan approval for this 871 lot conservation subdivision located in the suburban infill and conservation zoning district. The review and approval of a concept plan is the first stage of the development approval process. The property in question straddles the boundary between Williamson and Davidson counties and is located on Pasquo Road, just south of the terminus of Sneed Road and approximately a half-mile south of Highway 100. The Williamson County portion of the site encompasses approximately 726 acres and is bordered by the Timberline and Natchez Bend subdivisions to the east and United States Park Service land, including the Natchez Trace Parkway, to the southeast, south, and west. A TVA easement crosses the western portion of the property in a north to south direction. Much of the Williamson County portion of this property consists of a long central valley that is ringed by steep wooded hillsides, and the property contains an extensive amount of natural resources that require protection by the county zoning ordinance. These natural resources include Trace Creek and its associated floodplain, several other perennial and intermittent streams that require waterway natural area buffers, areas of slippage soils, and large areas of steep slopes, which are generally covered in tree canopy. Approximately 47% of the site is wooded. In addition to these natural resources, a small archaeological site exists along the eastern boundary of the site. This area is also required to be protected. The Stevens Valley development as a whole, which includes property in both Davidson and Williamson counties, totals roughly 1,200 dwelling units and includes a mixed-use neighborhood center, which will be located on the Davidson County portion of the site. A specific plan has been approved by Metro Nashville for the property within Davidson County, which totals approximately 133 acres. This specific plan allows the Davidson County property to be developed with approximately 340 dwelling units and up to 88,000 square feet of non-residential uses, including up to 45,000 square feet of retail space. The proposed development within Williamson County consists of 871 single-family lots ranging from 6,000 square feet to several acres in size. In general, the smaller lots are concentrated in the northern and central portions of the site, while the larger lots are located on the periphery of the development and towards the southern end of the property. The smaller lots will be served by rear alleyways, which will be privately maintained. Roads and building lots are concentrated in areas of the site that are most suitable for development, and, as required, approximately 60% of the site is preserved in open space. The applicant has collaborated with Natchez Trace Parkway officials to create a reforestation plan designed to screen the development from view of motorists on a stretch of the parkway where visual impacts were identified as a concern by parkway officials and supporters. The overall density on the Williamson County portion of the site is approximately 1.2 dwelling units per acre, which is the maximum allowed in the SIC zoning district. Staff has been reviewing the proposed concept plan for compliance with applicable regulations. However, this review is still ongoing at this juncture, as the applicant will be making some minor layout changes that were requested by staff, as well as providing some additional information necessary for staff to complete its review of the project. Access to the proposed development will be provided from various points along Pasquo Road and Union Bridge/Sneed Road, primarily within Davidson County. The applicant is proposing to realign Pasquo Road and Union Bridge/Sneed Road to include a roundabout intersection, which will be located on the Davidson County side, approximately 300 feet south of the existing alignment of this intersection. A connection is also proposed from an existing roadway stub on Timberline Drive within the Timberline subdivision. This access point can serve an important role from an overall connectivity standpoint and has been recommended by both Metro Davidson County and Williamson County's traffic consultant. However, it will be vital to ensure that this access point serves its intended purpose from a connectivity standpoint while not receiving significant cut-through traffic from Stevens Valley motorists. To that end, staff has recommended a number of design changes to the internal roadway layout that can help de-emphasize this connection by making the route to this connection more circuitous. Additionally, the county's traffic consultant will be providing recommendations related to prohibiting the use of this connection for construction traffic, as well as specifying that the connection not be made until late in the build-out process of this development. External traffic impacts associated with this development are among the chief issues and concerns that must be addressed. Because of the size of the development, the applicant was required to submit a traffic impact study which evaluates the impacts that the development will have on the surrounding roadway network and identifies roadway improvements that will be necessary in order to accommodate the development. A scope of work for this study was prepared by the county's traffic consultant based on the county's traffic study guidelines. Metro Nashville also provided a scope of work, and the traffic impact study that was ultimately prepared by the applicant was to address both of these scopes of work. The traffic impact study was submitted by the applicant in December of 2014 and has undergone a series of revisions based upon review comments from the county's traffic consultant, in which additional information was requested. As of this writing, the county's consultant has indicated that additional information is still needed in order to accurately determine the extent of roadway improvements that will be necessary to accommodate the development, as well as to identify when those roadway improvements will be necessary in relation to the projected build-out of the development. In summary, staff feels that many aspects of this proposed development are very positive, particularly from an internal design standpoint. The information provided on the concept plan, as well as in the accompanying booklets that were provided to staff, depicts a well-designed community with a strong sense of place and an emphasis on architectural character. While these design elements are important and even exemplary, the importance of adequately dealing with the traffic impacts associated with the development cannot be overstated. Given the position of the county's traffic consultant that additional information is still needed relative to the traffic impact study, coupled with the fact that staff is awaiting additional information necessary to complete its technical review of the concept plan, staff recommends that action on this item be deferred until the March 2016 meeting. And as a final note, Mr. Chairman, like the other item, you do have in front of you some correspondence related to this item.
Thank you. Mr. Rochford, do you want to make a comment?
Good evening, Chairman Lackey and members of the Commission. Again, I too thank all of you for your public service to our county and to this greater part of Middle Tennessee that has served so many so well. I am John Rochford, and I am the developer of Stevens Valley, and before our engineer presents a summary of what we propose on our concept plan, I wanted to give you a little background of how we got here tonight. Rochford has been the developer of Temple Hills for 30 years, which is a neighbor to the Stevens property. Rochford as a family has been residents of that area for almost 50 years, owning property on Moran Road. I say this because I stand here to say that I care as much about the area as anyone for a couple of reasons, but a big part of it is that our family are longtime neighbors as well as responsible developers with a solid reputation. I have no reason at this point in my career to go backwards and will not let that happen with this community. The Stevens family relationship to this area goes back much longer than mine. Stevens' father moved to the Stevens Valley about 80-plus years ago. This was well before the Natchez Trace Parkway and all of the communities now in the area. I like to say, besides the settlers and Andrew Jackson on his way to the Battle of New Orleans, which crosses this property, the area was populated by indigenous tribes. And there are not many people who better know the area than the Stevens family. The facts are, had the circumstances been different, Mr. Stevens may very well have never sold this farm. I can tell you over the years, Mr. Stevens has had dozens of people interested in developing it because there's nothing like this valley anywhere within miles and miles of this property. Its uniqueness is complemented by the fact that it is surrounded on three sides by the Natchez Trace Federal Park. As many of you know, the Stevens family lost a son and they have no heirs, so his priorities changed. Mr. Stevens decided to pick a developer to buy his farm and to use those land proceeds to fund a charity to the fullest extent possible. He wanted someone who was not only successful financially, but who would ensure the neighborhood as a whole would embrace responsible development of the highest order. To that end, he said, "John, could you develop my farm in a slow and measured way to allow its impact to be absorbed more carefully into the surrounding community? Change is disruptive, and doing something that meets the needs of the changing demographic methodically would lessen the impact." I said, "Yes, Mr. Stevens, I spent 30 years developing Temple Hill successfully in each previous section, and most of all, each section that I developed became more successful than the one before, and people have loved living out there. So I see the slower pace as being of value to the property because it appreciates in value." To meet his request, I agreed to a much slower pace in the development of Stevens Valley and to have a matrix of a 20-year build-out. To that end, I would like everyone here to attend our groundbreaking, and I hope all of us can attend the wrap-up when this development is complete. The Stevens Valley will be a community by which all others will be measured due to significant contributions from some 20 neighborhood meetings, along with planners, engineers, landscape architects, and elected officials. The first group we met with were land trust and conservation groups, as well as the Natchez Trace Parkway Commissioner, Mary Reeser, and her staff, and numerous other times with them to ensure what we did would have the least negative impact on the parkway with buffering, but more than that, by actually adding trails, hiking, walking, and just greater enjoyment of the trace into Stevens Valley. We've referred to the development as inclusive and not exclusive, since the trails in some 460 acres will be shared as open space by everyone. As our engineers introduce the concept plan, you will see we're not asking for a single variance. We are playing by the rules established by you and your professional staff. I must say to a person, those who represent you have displayed the highest integrity in the process leading up to tonight. The only remaining open item, which will certainly result in a request for a deferral, is the traffic impact and how that will be handled. While the process is slow, it's actually positive because in the big picture, what we do necessarily needs to complement the larger traffic planning within the county. What I say to you tonight is our engineers are charged with not only handling 100% of what we generate in our area, so it will not negatively impact traffic issues that already exist out there, but to look at what we can do to improve safety and lessen the current congestion as we develop our property. You will hear more about that when the engineer speaks, but I can say we will reach an acceptable agreement to meet and exceed those objectives with the consultants the county has reviewing our analysis and the improvements to accomplish those goals. Finally, I know quite a few folks are here tonight about this development. As a matter of fact, we had a meeting with many of them this past Tuesday night, in spite of the slippery roads and the snow. We met because they will not get a chance to speak tonight, and I wanted to show them our concept plan and let them ask us what they would say if they were to voice a comment beyond the letters you've received from them. The number one issue we heard is the impact on quality of life, which includes safety, traffic, and then schools. I mentioned that we are in discussions to have offered a 1-acre parcel for a new fire station for both Davidson and Williamson counties right within Stevens. Could reduce the time to respond to an emergency to a large for a large geographic area and lower insurance costs. When the issue of schools was raised, I said notwithstanding significant new permit fees, impact fees, and property taxes, we all know property taxes do not pay for the cost of schools. I mentioned we even looked at putting a school on part of this property, but we're at the edge of the county and it serves a very narrow slice of the market. A school needs to be centrally located to reduce travel time for the greatest number of families. There are great folks involved in the school board planning, and I'm sure they will have a county growth statistic and will ultimately have a good solution. On traffic, notwithstanding what we're doing with our engineers, we'll outline tonight is a neighborhood objection, which was mentioned about a cut-through street from adjacent community into Stevens Valley. While we have sidewalks and dedicated open space that keeps cars away from people, earlier communities did not have that new smart growth standard. Finally, I would just like to wrap up and say that you'll see in our plan, as it's been stated, quite a bit of sensitivity to the entire area in listening to neighbors, and so I thank your indulgence for letting me speak. I tried to keep it to 6 minutes.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Commissioner and Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Alan Thompson. I'm with Reagan Smith and Associates. I appreciate this opportunity to speak to you. I'll do my best to be brief. You should have received in your packet a couple of booklets. I'm sure you have them right here. A lot of this information I'm going to cover in this presentation. So if you have questions, after today, you can go back and look at a lot of that stuff. We're excited about this project. We feel like it's a great opportunity for the community. We feel like it's a great opportunity for the county, and we're pretty excited about that. I do want to say it's been a long process. We've worked with Davidson County representatives and Williamson County representatives and staff, and they've been great. Last time we were here was about 12 months ago to give you a presentation on what Stevens Valley was initially thought to be and how it's evolving. At that point, we had already engaged several of the surrounding neighborhoods on multiple occasions. Since then, we have engaged them further. We have also talked to multiple HOAs within the area of both Davidson County and Williamson County. We've worked with emergency services, public works, and the county's engineering staff as well. That being said, I'd like to present Stevens Valley as what we're looking at, the application before you tonight. What you're seeing here is the location of Stevens Valley. To the far right of your screen, it's kind of hard to see, but that's Loveless Cafe out on Highway 100. Also, it's the most northern entrance to the Natchez Trace Parkway on Highway 100. Our project is located less than a mile south of Highway 100, which is a major thoroughfare leading into downtown Nashville and to short access points to I-40. That being said, the portion of the property that we're looking at tonight is the 726 acres that you see highlighted in yellow. But I want to touch base on what has happened over the past 12 months, because much has happened. This is the Davidson County portion. It's 133 acres. Since the last time we spoke to you, we went before their planning commission, before their council, and these areas have been rezoned to an SP classification. That's a specific plan classification in Metro Davidson County. That being said, we have kept with these principles. These are the same principles that we showed you 12 months ago. We wanted to make sure we had a comprehensive pedestrian and bicycle plan. This is all about walkability. We wanted to make sure that the opportunity for these natural resources that Mr. Madison was speaking of are accessible, and that the residents can use them from recreational purposes, but not just the residents, the community as a whole. This is an inclusive neighborhood. We're not checking for the Stevens Valley membership card at the door. This is open for everybody in the surrounding area. We're promoting diverse housing types. We have over 12 different lot types in just Williamson County alone, so that you have a sustainable neighborhood that can flex with a market over the years. We're looking at establishing an authentic village core, and this is something we're very excited about, and I'll go into further detail on that, but we see that as the heart of the community. And then an abundant outdoor recreational opportunities. That being said, this is the plan that has actually been submitted to the county. What I want to focus on just briefly is this portion up here that's in Metro Davidson County. This is one of the areas that was rezoned to a specific plan. It's approximately 25 acres. The reason I want to focus on it tonight, it's our front door. This is the way people get in and out. Is also our village core, which is a mixed-use area that will serve for neighborhood services and keep our residents and local residents off the major thoroughfares for small services that they can have access to. That being said, this is some of the context pictures that we showed you about 12 months ago. We're still looking at the character that's built around this village core. When we thought about, what's going to make this special, we looked at downtown Franklin, we looked at West Haven, we looked at Leapers Fork, the things that have been accomplished at Loveless Cafe. What is going to make this a unique destination point that's going to tell people that live there and live in the community, I want to walk down there. I want that experience of going to this village center. I want the social aspect of it. And so this is the characteristic that we see in that village center. Also, as part of that village center, you'd have a little bit more dense residential units in terms of townhomes, not a whole lot of them, but townhomes that lead up to that area on safe pedestrian travel ways that separate pedestrian from vehicular traffic. And then you would have single family homes. We're still in Davidson County. That are alley loaded and keep that seamless streetscape along the curbs there. Also in that Davidson County area, as part of our zoning, we have dedicated an acre of land for the development of a fire station. We feel like safety is beneficial, obviously, to our residents, but we also feel like on that end of the corridor, it will be benefit to everyone within that area and in that community. So now I want to look at the application we have before you tonight. Again, I mentioned we have 12 different lot patterns. At the same time, there's really 3 main housing types I want to point out to you and give you an idea of the character of Stevens Valley. This is our alley-loaded residential homes. And what you can see here, the pedestrian way is lined across the street. You don't have multiple driveways connecting to the street, and you create that experience, that safety of pedestrian circulation feel that separates you from the car and makes you decide, I would rather walk as opposed to drive. So what you're seeing here, and you see in red, these are the proposed alleys. These are private alleyways. They are maintained by the HOA. We did meet in early January to do a presentation to the Highway Commission earlier, about a month ago, and that was exactly what I said, is a presentation to them for their review. But this is your alley located areas. So how does that work? You see a lot of the homes here, and they front on green spaces. And if you see, we add the alleys to the rear there. So again, you have homes fronting on these tree-lined streets and these formal open spaces. What does that do? That gives you an uninterrupted streetscape, and then your utilitarian portion, your cars for the residents, they're all in the rear. Your waste pickup is in the alley. Your electrical transformers is in the alley. Your mail pickup is in the alley. So a lot of that all goes to the alley. So you keep a lot of that traffic off of the main streets, and you keep that seamless, pedestrian-friendly street alive. So what does that do? It allows you to take your building to engage that streetscape with unique architecture. And that unique architecture creates a character along that travel way that makes me say, when I want to get up and go get a bagel on a Saturday morning, or I want to go walk to dinner, I'm going to do that by walking, because it's more pleasant than getting in my car and driving down to that point. That's what we're encouraging you with here. Why is that important? Because we see beyond just our open space, which is going to be a huge amenity, and we'll touch on that here soon. But we see every one of our streets with the sidewalks lined to each side, the street trees to each side, being an amenity in themselves. And we're going to have approximately 8.5 miles worth of streets that will be serving as these amenities. This gives you an idea of what that alley would look like behind the home. So this is where your car, mail pickup, and trash pickup would occur. And again, this is ultimately that type of image that we want to collect along our streetscape, that's seen from the public realm. The next one I wanted to touch on is front-loaded housing. Front-loaded means the driveway comes out to the actual public street. Here you can see where it comes out to the street, but it does it in a way that it doesn't completely interrupt that pedestrian circulation system. You can also see how the garage on these homes are either recessed from the front of the facade or located all the way to the rear, so that you don't have cars dominating that front area along that street. So those areas are pretty much the areas without the alleys that you see here. Again, you're going to have garage and architectural elements that treat that appropriately, so you still have that character along that streetscape that encourages walkability and one to have a sense of, I want to walk as opposed to drive. And then the third portion is the larger lot homes. These are lots we see more as estate type lots that work their way back into the natural areas. If you look here, those lots are what you see in yellow, much larger in size, but they also give you opportunities to work out in some small areas where you could develop a homestead that's a little bit more tucked away, and you can develop it with an architecture that works with the natural context of the area. So parks and open space. How do we integrate this into our neighborhoods? As Mike mentioned, we are providing 60% open space for this area. That is 435 acres of our 726 acres will be open space, both natural open space and formal open space. In addition to that, we'll have approximately 85 acres of the 133 acres in Davidson County will be open space, giving you a total of 520 acres. So how do we activate that open space? We're going to do that, and this is in addition to sidewalks along our streets. We're looking at about 7 miles of both paved and natural trail system working together to give our residents and our surrounding neighborhoods access to this 435 acres. In addition to that, we're surrounded by 2/3 of our site by the Natchez Trace. We have worked with the Natchez Trace on buffering issues, but we're also working with the Natchez Trace on a comprehensive trail system that would have a trail system leaving from this property, possibly going into the Trace property itself. And again, how do we access that? Well, you go from the urban layout of the towns to these paths at certain critical access points, and you're biking or you're hiking through this trail system. Now, how do we integrate the formal open space into our neighborhood? This is more along the homes themselves, but this is where we have the ability to front on formal open spaces. That can also be used for storm drainage opportunities at the same time. But we see this formal open space also an opportunity to save tree lines. We've gone through great efforts to save existing tree lines in this plan. An opportunity to locate playground areas so you have destination points. Little side area, sitting areas off the direct walking path. And then destination points along that natural trail system and focal points that give you a reason to walk and hike this trail system in the first place. The other thing I wanted to focus on is your amenity center, and you'll see the little gold star that came up at this location. That's where we look at more of a neighborhood amenity center. This is a conceptual layout of that amenity center. So you're looking at a clubhouse, a pool area, possible tennis courts, possible community gardens worked in there. It has not been completely programmed at this point, but we'd look at a significant amenity center to accommodate our residents, both from an active and a social meeting place, but also an area where you could have small events like an outdoor wedding or something of that nature. One thing we did want to mention, and Mike mentioned, we've worked as one of our many meetings over the 12 months since we've been here. We've worked very diligently with the Natchez Trace Parkway system. And this area you see here is the view shed that a lot of people are referring to that actually views into our property. And we have worked out a mitigation plan that would encourage a reforestation of that area well early in the stages, that by the time we get to development in that particular area, it will be more than a sufficient screen. And this is an agreement that we've come to at this point with Natchez Trace. Vehicular circulation, I think this is very important. How are we getting these people in and out of here? So when we looked at this, we knew that we needed more than one way in and out. Currently, we have Pasquo Road. So immediately we thought we need to build a parallel collector road. So what you see in orange there is that parallel collector road. So through the first phases 1, 2, and 3, that collector road is going to get constructed. Once that collector road is in place, it gives us the ability to follow up and improve Pasquo Road to a collector road standard. And that's what you're seeing here, Pasquo Road that would be improved to that level. Currently, it's more driveway width at this point. So significant improvements along Pasquo Road. And then you'll see over on Highway 100, the introduction of a signal at that location. The Pasquo intersection with Highway 100 is key because we see a lot of our flow of our traffic being able to get to this main arterial, and the ease of them moving will now be controlled by a signal. This is not something we're proposing. It's something that's already approved and should be installed this year. So it'll be well before we have residents in this area. These are your local roads within the community. You see how they tie to the collector systems. The blue lines are your alley areas that we looked at earlier. We did want to point out this is a connection to the Timberline neighborhood, to the Timberline Drive. This is a connection that was recommended by Davidson County. It's recommended by your staff at Williamson County. We did want to point it out because, as John mentioned, we had a neighborhood meeting 2 nights ago. They asked us to voice their concerns, and we wanted to do that. They do have concerns with the connection, and they are opposed to this connection. But we said that we would relay that message, and that's what we're doing tonight. So one thing I wanted to look at this front door as we're getting in and out of Stevens Valley. You have about 1,400 linear feet along Union Bridge, or also Sneed Road. It changes name at the county line. What you can see is a roundabout at that main intersection. This is a system that we worked many months on with Metro Public Works. It was important that we got this correct, not just for the traffic and the transportation of the people utilizing the road today, but also for the future of our residents. We want to be able to create fluid flow of vehicular movement in this area. So as you can see, we have the two opportunities in your collector systems that come out onto Union Bridge. The roundabout is something that will be added and replacing the current 90-degree bend of Union Bridge in Pasco heading to Highway 100. What this will do is give a non-stop movement for those on Sneed Road as well as those on Pasco Road. So they're currently stopping at that intersection. This gives you a non-stop movement. So it slows traffic down, but it doesn't stop it, to a future signal that's going to encourage much better circulation. In addition to that, there's a third way that you have to move outside of this neighborhood. And you see the yellow line there. Should you not want to use either of the collector systems, there's a third way to get out to this location. And so we did that because connectivity throughout this neighborhood is essential to have that fluid movement of traffic. So again, this is the application we bring for you tonight. Again, it is all about walkability. It's about that person deciding, I want to go walk down to the village center for dinner. I want to go there for coffee in the morning. I don't want to get in my car. For the kids, I don't want to play Xbox. I've got 400 acres of hiking trails behind my house. This is encouraging a different type of mentality. When you buy into Stevens Valley, you're not buying a yard, you're buying a community. You're buying the entire community. And as we said, we're inclusive. This is not just for our residents, it's for everyone that's surrounding us. So protecting those travel ways, encouraging that character, and the kid to use his bike again is essential to what we want to accomplish here at Stevens Valley. You know, creating that overall sense of quality of lifestyle is what we're looking for. So with that, I know you guys are going to have several questions. I'm here with Reagan Smith, Land Innovations, also co-designers with us are here, and co-development team are here as well as representatives, and John Rochford and his team are here as representatives. But we thank you for this time. I know that the presentation was a little lengthy, and I know you've got several things to ask us. So with that, I appreciate it and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Jack?
May. On your traffic pattern, what I didn't see and what I will want to see is how you get the residents from there to I-40, to Hillsborough Road, I-65, and that's, I will need to see that.
Okay, and that's a great point. And as Mike mentioned, we're still working with staff
Okay.
on design aspects of the plan itself, but we're also working hand in hand with them on that circulation on Stevens Valley. We know there's going to be off-site improvements. We're working on defining those, and we are 100% on board with making those improvements per the impact that we'll have on those systems.
All right. Thank you.
Anyone else? Timmy?
Got a couple questions. You mentioned the fire station on Davidson County side, and I've heard co-located with Williamson County, and kind of what does that mean? And somebody from Williamson County might be able to answer that too. But how can you share at this point? Has Davidson County requested improvements to Pasquale? I mean, you're adding the signal, but is the width or anything like that?
No,
is that anything known at this point?
That's a great question. In addition to the signal, there will be a left turn lane on Highway 100 that turns into Pasquale. In addition to that, Pasquale will now have a left turn lane and a right turn lane, as well as an entrance lane coming from Highway 100. So it's not just the signal, it's complete modification to the intersection itself. And in addition to improvements in Davidson County, as our development moves forward, we will have to look at a right turn lane from Highway 100 onto Pasquale, and a right turn lane from Highway 100 onto McCory Lane, if you're familiar with McCory Lane. So those are additional improvements beyond that.
Thank you. Holly?
Oh, and did you have a question on the fire station?
Yeah, does that mean Williamson County will they serve
Well,
both, or what, do we know yet?
Let me tell you where we are. We've come to the table with both Davidson County and Williamson County, and it's great in concept. Our thought is a joint fire station at that particular area where you have Metro and Williamson County working together. I don't know if that will come to fruition or not. So we're in conversations with, I've talked to Bill Jorgensen a few days ago about the possibility, well, if Davidson County doesn't come here, would Williamson County come? And so we're looking at the possibility, even though it's on the Davidson County side, to establish a Williamson County volunteer fire department and EMS unit right there in our village core. We like the idea, one from a safety standpoint, but having a civic presence in our village core is very important to us. And it makes all the sense in the world that in some form or fashion, Williamson County will be involved and part of that, whether it's at that location or nearby. But I can tell you we're working on that, and we don't have the final decision at this point, I guess.
Did all, Sammy?
One other question. For Timberline Drive,
Mm-hmm.
the connection being made there, based on what I see in the drawings, it does appear that Timberline, as it was previously platted and drawn and everything, had right-of-way extending to the property line. Is that
that's
accurate?
correct. Yeah, the right-of-way extends to our boundary and touches our property.
Okay.
Holly?
Sammy asked really the question I was going to ask on Pasco Road. And I guess the only follow-up I have to that, I'm kind of, you said will the turn lane go from McCrory Lane to where? I mean, how long would that turn lane? It won't go
Okay.
all the way down Pasco, but
Oh, no,
how
no.
far?
Well, are you familiar with McCrory Lane?
No, I'm not.
Okay. All right. Let me work my way back here.
Okay.
All right. So where you see Highway 100 and the signal, if you go straight up the page, you'll see a road that turns off to your right before you get to Natchez Trace. It's not labeled, but that's McCrory Lane.
Okay.
It heads to I-40.
Okay.
So we would have to put a right turn lane on Highway 100 that takes traffic from Highway 100 heading north towards I-40 on McCrory Lane. Now that's a Davidson County improvement. The other improvement I talked about was on Highway 100 turning into Pasco. We will have to put a right turn lane from Highway 100 turning on to Pasco, coming towards us, going south, if that makes sense.
Okay. Will that turn lane run the extension of what the connector roads are going to be? Does that make sense?
Will it run? Oh, will Pasco widen all the
Well,
way
whether-
to our entrance?
Yes.
Ultimately, yes. Right now, we're going to see what's designed today is approximately half of Pasco Road will be widened to 3 lanes
Okay.
with the improvements that are currently approved and in process of being bid for final build. But we would see it constructed this year. As we develop, we would see that become a full 3-lane road all the way back to our roundabout that we show here. So that's going to be a 3-lane road heading out to that particular intersection.
Did all? Ryan?
Yes. Along Union Bridge Road and Sneed, seems like a lot of the traffic is collecting there. Are you proposing any widening or improvements to tie back into Pasquale or what?
Yeah, we're working with the county on off-site roadway improvements, but we do know from day one, Union Bridge, as it comes into our roundabout, is going to go to a 3-lane width. But we also know that the first road that's going to be built is the one you see on the bottom part of the page where it comes in right at the county line. That's the first boulevard that we're going to build. That it's a collector that works its way back into our site. We're doing that to accommodate phase 1 development of the homes along that area. But as we build this collector we get a collector in place before we start construction on Pasquo. That way we don't interrupt traffic flow from the residents behind there. But I'm sorry, and I meant to answer the question. We'll be looking at a left turn lane coming into our main entrance. So yeah, that we do know.
Also, about what percentage of your residents are going to be in that northern third, just approximately?
Okay, approximately.
Seems like it's more.
I would say 60%.
And from
be approximate.
From south tip to the village core.
Oh, the south tip all the way to the village core is approximately 2 miles.
That's what I was.
And this is by design. We did this from a planning standpoint that you want your density closer to your infrastructure, closer to your village core, to encourage the walkability from it. And then as we work our way back into the valleys, into the hollows there, where we want to be very cognizant of how we treat our natural resources, you see that density fall back significantly. The farther you go south, that density falls back. So as you move towards the north, you'll see that collected. That's also the way the lay of the land works. That's your flatter areas, your non-treed areas. And I would say it's fair to say we're saving at least 80% of our tree canopy. So we've tried to be very conscious of our natural resources, whether they were required to be saved or not, because we see that as a valuable asset to our residents.
Did Metro recommend the same size for their fire station? Or just an acre seems in that minor detail?
No, they went. We offered the 1 acre. I think if you looked at a combined station, if they looked at it from a suburban, just flat out suburban model, they would look probably more at a 2 acre. In this type village core, we look more vertical than we look horizontal. And so you can get a lot more on 1 acre than what you could 2. And so that's the way we've designed it. But again, we haven't come to any final solution or agreement there.
Thank you.
Mr. Crohan?
Yes, sir. My question on Sneed Road, coming down towards Timberline, are there going to be improvements on that going away from Pasco the opposite direction?
Ultimately, yes. And that's what we're working on with the county, is defining what those improvements are and when they're made. But ultimately, there will be improvements as far as widening the road. We know that, and in talking to a lot of the neighbors 2 nights ago, we know there's an issue there in front of St. Matthews in the early morning when you have school traffic crossing your peak time of people going to work. That's probably one of your key issues. And so ultimately, we see a widening at that particular intersection to accommodate that.
Okay. And the other question is, and this is on, I realize this is Metro side, but on McCory Lane, that's kind of a rough road. Where with the traffic, you figuring the traffic to drop off on the first or the second, where it comes out on Highway 100? It comes out 2 directions. It comes out
coming from us onto Highway 100, or
go to McCory Lane and coming towards 100. You have the Cedar Shack at the end of there. Is that where you're planning your traffic coming out, or going further down where the bridge is closer to?
Oh no. We're. Are you familiar where Loveless Cafe is? Mm-hmm. Well, if you take Loveless Cafe and drive towards Nashville, mm-hmm. away from the Cedar Shack's over the hill from us.
Right.
But if you're driving towards downtown Nashville, I'm guessing a half a mile.
Okay,
towards
so you're
Nashville.
figuring on that first, this side of 96, that first entrance into.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sammy?
2 more points. I know the traffic study's coming. Final. I'll be very interested to see that and talk about the off-site improvements. And also I want to emphasize, I think it's very important to the Timberline connection is important, and I agree with that, but we do need to work with planning. I've not seen their concepts of what they're wanting to do. I think it's important to not make that a straight cut through, and you know, I just wanted to make those comments.
Jack?
What's the projected build out?
Well, we look at this being a 20-year project. I've worked on several developments in the area, Trayside being one. Trayside was much more of a tract building type development.
Right.
Nothing wrong with Trayside, I live there. But it's a great community, great homes. However, this is probably more of a custom type built home. And so you're looking at phase one would probably be the most aggressive with 60 to 75 homes. But beyond that, you're looking at approximately 50 homes a year. You know, it's not exactly the math,
Right.
but we see this kind of a slow 20-year progression.
Well, where's phase home? Front, middle, back? I mean, phase one, is it?
Phase one. All right, I can walk you through that. The other question came up the other night.
Well, just a
So
general.
we have got phasing exhibit I can show you. All right, that's phase one. So phase one is the first road coming off of Sneed Road next to the Lutheran Church. It'll come in, we'll develop approximately 60 to 70 homes in that particular area. And that starts the construction of our collector road that will develop over the years to be put in place prior to any kind of interference on Pasco Road.
So then, if phase one is east of Pasco, then phase two will be,
Yeah, I can walk through them.
well, and that's fine. I'm just
Right.
trying to get where the construction traffic's gonna end up.
Okay, phase one, you see there, phase 1B comes in there, 2 there, and you
Okay.
can see this is your collector. So the construction for the first 2 to 3 phases are going to be east of Pasco Road. And the
Okay.
construction road we would see coming in paralleling off Pasco Road. So the farthest away from the Timberline residents and the Natchez Bend residents as we develop those phases. As we get into phase 2 there, we now have a completed, this is phase 2D, a completed collector road system. And with that system in place, we can move on to upgrading Pasco Road to a collector road system. And that's where you see starting getting into some of the development inside Davidson County, establishing that roundabout and developing that roadway system, as well as some lots. This will be the first time you see the lots move to the west of Pasco Road.
Okay. So you're probably looking at 4 to 5 years before you get to
Absolutely.
you get to the retail part of it too.
Right, and that's a good point. Part of that's by design, because to have a sustainable, functioning retail, vibrant center,
Right.
you need a critical mass of
Yeah.
homes.
Okay.
Anyone else? Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Kester?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate your service and I appreciate you letting me speak tonight. I'm going to be extremely brief. I'm very interested in protecting the property values of existing residents and their quality of life. And in that regard, I've been resolute about one issue and one issue only, and that is this connection to Timberline. I would ask that you not do that. All of the residents, and I think really literally all of them at Timberline, have implored me to implore you to not do that. I think it's pretty clear we're going to end up with a fire station here at some point in the not too distant future. We're also going to end up with a school, but I think John's right, it'll have to be more centrally located. But when you look at this connection and you look at this plat, I think it's kind of far-fetched to imagine that emergency vehicles would ever use that connection. I just don't believe it. Although I work with a lot of people who pride themselves on knowing back cut-throughs and, you know, quick ways to get around, and I think this would denigrate the quality of life in Timberline subdivision. Furthermore, I think in today's world with GPS technology, EMS vehicles don't really get lost that often. I think that it's pretty easy to find any address nowadays with GPS, and so again, I don't think that is really a reasonable or useful EMS access point. And lastly, I would say if you really feel that you have to have that for some reason that I don't understand, I would suggest you use a breakaway gate or something that really restricts that access to only emergency vehicles. Otherwise, it's going to be a cut through, and it's going to denigrate the quality of life in Timberline, and I just don't think that's fair to those existing residents. But thank you.
Thank you, sir. Oh, you're going to have to grow some. I didn't see you back there. Come on. Come on up.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to get to speak to y'all, and I'll keep it brief as well. I can't really add much to what Mr. McCoy and Commissioner Kestner have already said. Just I wanted to add my voice by representing especially Timberline's voice in opposition to that road opening. I agree with Commissioner Kestner that this will provide a cut-through, but not necessarily provision for emergency services, as seems to be one of the reasons why we would have a cut-through. I think they would all come Sneed Road because that's how the GPS would direct them. These two communities, I'm in full support of Stevens Valley. I'm excited about what they're bringing to the community, but it's very distinctively different than that of Timberline. Timberline prides itself on its rural characteristics, and we have no business degrading the value of the property that they've spent years building. And I'd very much want you to commit to keeping that, not even with a breakaway gate, but keeping that closed off so that these two communities can remain distinctive. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. That concludes agenda item 12. I'm sorry, I thought we had done that. My bad. It has been recommended by staff for deferral, and I understand Mr. Rochford concurs in that. Is that correct? Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Prepare to vote. Vote now. Record it. Motion carries. Thank you. Concludes agenda item 12. Agenda item 13, final plat review for Savage Point Woods, large lot easement subdivision containing 4 lots on 33.82 acres located off of Buchanan Lane in the 2nd voting district. And hold up reading that just a second. Let these people go home.
I know.
Folks, if you go ahead and move on, we would appreciate it. We've got other business to do. That didn't work. We're back in session. Maybe that'll help. Well, I tried, that worked. Agenda item 13, staff, who's got that?
I got that. Thank you,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman. The property in question is approximately 34 acres in size and is located off Buchanan Lane and Savage Point Drive. The applicant is requesting approval of a large lot easement subdivision in order to create 4 lots off Savage Point Drive. This will leave a remainder parcel of approximately 8 acres with frontage on Buchanan Lane. Savage Point Drive is also proposed to be extended into the development to create a new permanent cul-de-sac. The 4 new lots will be accessed via a 50-foot ingress-egress utilities easement from the new cul-de-sac. From a relatively flat area on the northern side of the property, the site slopes steeply upward in a southerly direction. Approximately 75% of the site is under tree canopy. The natural resource protection standards of the zoning ordinance have been met. The applicant is proposing individual septic systems for the lots, and the Department of Sewage Disposal Management is reviewing the request. Water will be provided by Mill Crofton Utility District from an existing 6-inch water line located along Savage Point Drive. As no fire hydrants are proposed and none are currently located within 500 feet of the building envelopes, the building envelopes have been separated by 200 feet per Section 5.53 of the subdivision regulations. The plat is in order and pending approval by the Department of Sewage Disposal Management by meeting date. Staff recommends approval subject to the following. 1. A notice of coverage issued by TDEC will be required prior to the signing of the plat. 2. A land disturbance permit must be obtained for the overall development. 3. The posting of a performance bond in the amount of $39,000 for roads, drainage, and erosion control. And 4. The posting of a performance bond in the amount of $42,791 for water improvements as specified by Mill Crofton Utility District. One additional item, the Department of Sewage Disposal Management has approved the request.
Thank you, sir. Questions to staff? Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? I see none. Prepare to vote. Vote now. Record it. Motion carries. Thank you. Any other business? Motion to adjourn. We are adjourned. Thank you.